Shalom guys. One of the things I definitely want to do with this channel from time to time is kind of introduce y'all and show you to some of the things that we do here on the homestead, and particularly those things that are applicable, maybe will help you with yours and will encourage you in the Word. And so today what I want to do is introduce you a little bit to something, a little project that we did a few years back that has really benefited us. And every year at this time, it brings to mind the particular passage of Scripture from John 15, dealing with the vine and the branches. So let me show you what I'm talking about. We have here on our property a grape arbor. Technically, I guess here in the south, this would be muscadines and scuppernongs. It's particular varieties that do grow wild. However, these are domestic varieties that we have. But when we were in the process of building this little pavilion, really the first thing that happened wasn't the pavilion itself, or what we call the retreat. What happened first was that I put in a covered arbor. I was trying to find the word there. I put in a covered arbor with muscadines or scuppernongs coming up each of the four corners, and it's simply four 6x6 posts. I think this is about 16 by 16, and or 16 by 14 maybe underneath, and 2x6 by 16s up top. But let me get a couple shots here up closer so that you can get an idea of what this is. Very simple structure to put together. It takes a couple years to mature. You train the vine up and onto the top of it. And what I'm going to be doing today is doing the basic pruning. So let's take a quick look at the structure so that you have an idea. This is the time of year to be planting this. To build this structure, you can do this in an afternoon or in 2 afternoons, where you set your post and then you come back in and put the structure together. Very quick and easy, and then you can plant the vines. And over the course of a couple years, you train them that first year up to where they go, and then they'll begin to mature into nice, thick vines. So here we go. Personally, I like a big, chunky looking structure. I don't have the timber framing skills, although I've got a good friend now that's doing timber framing by hand, and so in the future maybe some things like that would work out. But I've basically just got two 2x6s, and these actually, I misspoke, they're not 6x6s, it's 4x6s on the corners, and the structure then just has 2x6s tied up top. And you'll notice it's a little hard to see with all the vines that are up there. It'll become much more clear once I get done cleaning this up. You'll notice that I've just got cattle panels thrown right on top, and the vines are on top of the cattle panels. Now, the lights that you have here, the icicle lights, this is great in the evening time during the spring, summer, and fall to have the lights on and just hang out here. This is a wonderful place just to hang out. During the winter time, it looks a little sparse, but that's the best time to get a good idea of how the structure looks and what can be done with it. Very simple, again, not hard at all, and I've just got it tied to one side. In fact, the posts on that side are attached directly to the structure that we call the retreat. It's a sort of it would be like an oversized gazebo, just a place to hang out and relax. Fire pit out here and those sorts of things. So let's start talking about actual pruning. Now, when I originally trained these vines, when they were first getting started, what I did was I took a piece of a cattle panel and went up each post to give them something to climb on, something for me to train them on. I'm actually at the place now where I'm thinking about cutting out probably 2/3 or more of that supporting structure, because the vines themselves are pretty chunky at this point and doing really well. We should see these vines last for years and years this way. Okay, so for the pruning, largely everything that I'm no pruning professional, but what I have learned is that everything that is off of every one of the growing nodes I want to cut away, and I'm only going to leave it's going to be very little left. So at every growing node, for example, we look at this one right here, we can see this right here, you can see where that's been cut back every year, multiple places right here, and yet I will cut this off and take that down. Everything goes away and it will grow again at that point. There's going to be a little bit of a weep right here, but very quickly that will seal over. All of this has to be done prior to the sap beginning to really start running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some shots here of me trimming everything, and it appears I'm going to get some shots of me trimming everything. Here's another one, and I'll just start working my way all over this and tearing all of these down, and we'll get some pictures, or not some pictures, I'll get some video and speed this thing up for you so you can see. Should take me, for these vines right here, it should take me about 2.5 or 3 hours once a year is really what I do on this. And then sometimes in the early or mid-summer, I'll have to clean off some of the runaway that wants to run away into the underside of the retreat and get into everybody's faces. I'll cut that back, and I will put some pictures in here or some video in here of what this looks like in the summertime and maybe in the evenings when we've got all of the lights on and family or friends or others in our fellowship out here hanging out.
While this is flying through, and in each of these little segments I'll give some additional commentary, I just want to shout out a big thank you to the patrons and those who have been subscribing and following the channel, as those are big helps for being able to get the word out and share many of the truths that we have opportunity to state on this channel.
It's important to note that new growth is where the fruit comes. The fruit does not come on old growth. So each of these nodes, as we're looking at right here, will put off new growth, and that's what the fruit will be on. And so while it looks like I'm harming the plant by trimming it and removing all of these branches, we see these branches all over the ground here, and there will be piles by the time I get finished. Some may think that that's harming, when in fact that's necessary for the plant to have, or for the vine to have maximum growth. And so very much that's the same way that we are treated in Messiah, where he prunes, sometimes painfully, but he prunes what's necessary in order to produce fruit and growth. So I'm gonna keep going, and we'll just speed this thing up so you can see as we work through. I'll give you some progress pictures along the way, or some progress shots along the way.
So previously I mentioned John 15:5, and the Messiah says, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every that bears fruit, he prunes it so that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine. So neither you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, he bears much fruit, for apart from me, you can do nothing."
So I will work my way up each corner until we get up onto the top, and just continuing to prune. What I want to do is work my way along each vine as I'm going, so that I preserve the major sap producing segment, these long major vines, and then each of the nodes where all of these things are sending out shoots or sending out branches. I'm going to prune and cut back, looking to cause it to release new growth at each of those nodes. And so this process just continues as I work along each vine, working my way out. Once I get up on top, I'll show you that I'll start right here at the corners, and I'll follow the main pieces all the way down out into the out into the middle of the arbor, taking everything off of them except for the main branches. When we get finished, it'll look like a skeleton laying up there with very little left on it. But in about 4 or 5 weeks, this will begin to blossom, and then just within a few days of new growth, all of a sudden there'll be vines running everywhere, and it'll be a beautiful spray of green, and a shady spray at that we can sit under, that we can enjoy. And of course that brings to mind the passage of scripture about the return to the land for the house of Israel, where they will sit under vines that they did not plant, and that they will have opportunity to watch their children and grandchildren grow up in this great return to the land. But one of the memorable pieces is being able to sit under the vines and enjoy their shade in the cool of the afternoon, watching your offspring, your family that is future, that you're the patriarch of, growing and playing and running and all of those sorts of things. So I always think of all these different things, all these different connections to scripture as I'm doing this each year. And about every 3 or 4 years, I have to replace the lights, and that's a different process. Later in the spring, what we'll do is we'll probably tear these down. Doesn't take long. We always buy the really inexpensive icicle lights that are outdoor rated. But we'll buy a set shortly after all the crazy pagan Christmas stuff, and it gives us a chance to take advantage of their sales and utilize it for something that is more valuable, and that's all the evenings that we'll spend sitting out here as we head into spring and summer. Now, some other things that may be of interest to you, you're probably looking at this going, wow, that's some crazy collection of pots and things right there. Some of these I've made, some of these we've just repurposed, some of these we've purchased, but all of these pots have perennial herbs and other things planted there that are of value in small quantity. One thing we've got going on right here, and it smells just amazing getting into it, is some rosemary, a good sized rosemary. Over there we have a number of different things: oregano, sage, lemon balm, echinacea. I can't remember everything else. There might be some lavender in there on the other, but we utilize a lot of the decorations here need to also be useful. There's no good reason, in my estimation. Well, I won't say there's no good reason. I've gotten to where there were years ago when I was not interested in anything that didn't add benefit because it just takes work. I'm getting to where I appreciate the beauty a little bit more of just having flowers and some of this sort of thing. And I know some people do very well with farms that have nothing but flowers and just selling the flowers. But I just wanted to show you kind of what some of the other things are around our space. And it's got the wear of winter on it. We'll be shortly cleaning everything up out here so that we can utilize it. But I'm going to continue working right here on this corner.
So for this last portion, I apologize for the camera work here. It's wiggling around a little bit on me, and it makes me seasick, so I'm sure some of y'all struggle with this as well. But I wanted to show you kind of what the finished product should look like, where all these different little nodes and branches are, and each of these little spots that has a growth node on the side of it should send out new growth. And the majority of these are going to be on the ends of the vines and in the middle of the vines, not on the places where they're climbing at the main trunk. But you can see this that it's just a bundle of short stubs, and out of that will grow these big sprays of green, and that is where all of the new fruiting will come from. I wanted to take a quick sweep of the farm just around us, the greenhouse we built, some other things. You got blueberry patch right there, chickens and the orchard inside the chicken pen. We're going to talk about that at some point, as well as some cows. But the overall project here this afternoon took me about 2.5, maybe 3 hours. It wasn't terribly hard. But certainly it was nice it's always nice to be finished with it and to be able to relax and get off the top of that arbor and consider that done. It's something that has to be done about the last week of January to the first week of February, depending on when it's starting to warm up for us. See all the branches and pieces laying all over the ground. We'll collect those and let them dry and burn. I still have to get some down off of the lights and the lighting up top here. But the job is about finished at this point. A little bit more work. And a couple things just to point out. You can see those. See the skeleton of the vine from underneath laying on top of the cattle panels here. And just in a couple weeks, all of a sudden it'll all green up. Maybe I can get certainly I'll probably shoot some videos out there this summer, as I did a year or two ago in my rebuttal of some of the crazy from David Wilbur and J.K. McKee. So it'll be a good chance to get back out there and do some filming, just because it's beautiful once all of this stuff is green and in its glory as we head towards the fall harvest. Each year, just on these on these 4 vines here, we usually get about 10 gallons, 2 5-gallon buckets or more of muscadines and scuppernongs. Not quite enough for wine, but enough to make some jellies and other things. One other thing I wanted to point out here that I had the camera aimed at, these solar lights, they're pretty cheap. You can pick them up. We happen to have them sitting in planters, but they collect sun during the day, both summer, year round, even under the grass or under the vines when they're covering, and they provide a little extra light in the evening. It's a great, inexpensive resource for your preps, just to have some of those on hand for lighting tents and other things. Good, quick, and easy. So we're coming to the end here. Another great video. Really enjoy hanging with you guys. For King and Kingdom, I bid you shalom.